Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Quacks podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Dozer, and if you're new to the show, our mission here is to expose all the gimmicks and quacks in the marketing industry while providing tips and tricks at the same time. On this episode, I'm excited to have David Triana, who is the director of PR at Empathy First Media. David has landed our clients in notable media outlets already, including Forbes, USNews, GoBankingRates, Yahoo Finance, and most recently a local radio opportunity that was a huge win for a client. David, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's get started here. Let's talk about your experience in the world of PR and just kind of how you got started and all the experience that you've built up over the years working at a bigger agency and where you're at right now.
Yeah, sure. So it's a funny story, actually. PR wasn't the end goal, so to speak. I come from a journalism background. I worked at Disney. I worked at ESPN. So I did a lot of different things before PR. But then the opportunity arose when I was actually going for a writing position. And I was asked, would you be open to being a publicist? And I was like, sure, never done it, never thought about doing it, but we'll see how it goes. And the job really fit like a glove for me. It came very easy to me. It was easy to understand what the goals were for clients and how to achieve those goals. So yeah, it's been really, really cool couple of years, which it feels like a lot longer than that. But I've gotten to do a lot of cool things, gotten to meet a lot of cool people, and work with clients in industries I've never thought I would even have any exposure to, let alone interest in. But it's been awesome so far.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't realize it was only a couple of years, and seeing some of these publications and relationships that you've already developed with reporters and huge media outlets, that's pretty impressive, man. So talk about some of those industries then. What are some of those industries and niches where you specialize in, you've gotten some big wins in? Talk about that.
Yeah, so when I first got into PR, the big industry that I was really exposed to was crypto. The bulk of my clients were in the crypto industry, and then from there, it kind of went into law, real estate, finance, and then a couple of offshoot industries in there with entertainment, some environmental clients. But I'd say my expertise really is in law and real estate. And I'm sure we'll talk about some of the big wins with those two industries a little later. But it's one of those things where you see those stories are always in the news. Along with finance, those are three, I would say, four industries that people are always caring about. And it's an industry where the news cycle is always moving, so you have opportunities left and right. And it's always something that I've tried to tell clients is when you're in an industry as, well, I don't want to say, obviously it's a well-known industry, but where things are just moving at a rapid pace, things are constantly changing. It's an ever-evolving industry. Talk about anything you can, and even if you have to Google something, Google it. But yeah, man, it's been awesome to work in those few and really create those long-lasting relationships with reporters.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. And I don't know if you can see here, but I have a Bitcoin and Ethereum sign on my wall. So I'm a big crypto guy, and I love that you have crypto experience in PR. I just find that really fascinating. So let's talk about, some of your big PR wins already. I mentioned them at the beginning of the show with GoBankingRates, USNews, Yahoo Finance, the local radio appearance. What in your mind are some of the biggest PR wins that you've had?
That's a good question. I think the biggest one, and it was sort of a series of wins, was with a former legal client of mine. Sort of when all this stuff with Donald Trump was going out with the legal issues and the trials and the hearing. I was able to land him in the Neil Cavuto show on Fox News, and then that opportunity kind of snowballed, and they really liked having him on, and then it got to the point where their guest bookers were reaching out to me asking for that client. And it was just one of the, it's not often that you think, oh man, I'm going to get my client and one of the biggest shows on cable TV, let alone one of the biggest news stations in the world. And it happened not once, but I think 4 times, 5 times. And the coolest thing that came out of that wasn't even so much the opportunity, but when one of those opportunities happened, um, my client was on the air when Trump arrived to the courthouse and you saw him for the first time. So I thought that was a cool way of kind of connecting him at that moment. Uh, but yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest one so far.
Yeah, that's very impressive. And I'm glad you brought up the snowball effect. And that's
Mm.
what I've realized as you and Audrey Boyce have opened my eyes to PR and just how all it takes is one opportunity and it goes into someone else's eyes and that snowballs into something else and that snowballs into something else. So really all it takes is that one appearance, and then that can snowball into a multitude of appearances as well on different outlets. So I'm glad you brought that up. So what would you say, why should a business, in your opinion, or an individual or a brand invest in PR? For someone who's on the fence, they only have a limited amount of marketing dollars that they can spend.
Mhm.
Why would you sell PR as a viable marketing option compared to other marketing options out there?
Well, I think PR is in a really important way. It creates a lot of the marketing content for you. I know that a lot of people really want, the big feature in Forbes, or they want to be on TV, or they want this, that, and the other. And all of that is great, but I think one of the biggest things is being a thought leader in your industry and being the person that people would go to for the expertise that they're searching for. And PR is the
Media
way to do that.
credibility.
Exactly. Media credibility. And that's the way to do it. Um, if you're in the crypto industry and, it was, I believe, the around November of last year when you thought the industry was just gonna collapse and everything was gonna
Was
be
that
done for.
FTX, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Um, a lot of people could say, "Oh, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to be associated with that." But my opinion of that was, you know, if you're not involved in that and you have a way to take the crypto industry forward, talk about what happened. Get your name out there, being the positive voice amid all the negativity. And I got a lot of my clients in the big crypto outlets and some of the big financial outlets talking about FTX. So it's just one of those things where PR can really elevate your business. It gets eyes on your business from places that you otherwise probably wouldn't be exposed to, and people you wouldn't be exposed to. Um, and the biggest thing is, don't feel like you have to settle paying 10, 15, $20,000 a month to get a worthwhile PR strategy. um, Especially if, and I'm sure we'll talk about this in a minute, especially if you're getting promised a lot of things. But I'll leave it at that because I know we probably want to touch on that a little further.
That was actually my next question, but I want to follow up quickly on something you said where I'm glad you brought up the positive spinning element because think about most of the news that we see, it's all negative. So if you have a PR client that can comment that and somehow turn that into a positive light, a lot of people appreciate the honesty there too because the reality is, David, and you know this too, people are so sick of hearing negative news. It's
Mhm.
24/7, it's constant. And I think that's a good PR tip someone could take away is if there's all this negative news, how can they spin this in a positive light for people to
Right.
see and build their media credibility? I'm really glad that you pointed that out. So
Yeah.
let's dive into the my favorite segment of the show in marketing quacks fashion. What are some of the biggest gimmicks or tricks that you see in PR that have you seen?
Yeah, I would say the biggest one is the guaranteed media. Anything that guarantees you something in PR, and honestly, with any, unless it's a product and the whole, money back guarantee thing, I would run the other way because I can't confidently tell a client, even if I've done it before, hey, I guarantee you're gonna get in U.S. News and World Report uh, by the end of the month. I just can't
So yeah,
guarantee
when
that.
So,
Yeah,
David, when you say guaranteed placements, I just want to kind of back this up a little
yeah.
bit. There's agencies out there or people or whoever doing PR that'll say, hey, I will get you in Forbes. Hey, I will
Mm,
get you in Business Advisor. I will get you in this and that. And what you're saying is that's one of the biggest gimmicks is when someone says right away, hey, I'm going to get you in Forbes. Just give me 10 grand or just give me an X amount of money and don't worry about it. Is that kind of where you're going?
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And it's not even it's not an uncommon practice. I mean, there are um, many agencies, and I guarantee you there are agencies out there that fulfill that request because they have that good a PR team where they feel, man. I feel comfortable guaranteeing this because I know it's going to pay off. Then you have others where the translation of guarantee just means that it's paid, and they're just going to pay for the opportunity, um, and that's how they fulfill that guaranteed, promise. But yeah, that's the biggest thing. And like I said, we can be great. We can have gotten clients in the outlets that clients really want to get into. But I use sports analogies all the time. You could have the best roster in the NFL, doesn't guarantee you're winning the Super Bowl. Like it things just happen. And it's the same way with PR. Things happen, stories can get scrapped, and you're kind of left in the dust.
Yeah, and one thing too that I've noticed as we've done more PR at our agency, one of the biggest
Mm.
hurdles that I've seen is when we onboard new clients, that process goes extremely well, but the clients have a rude awakening of, wow, here are all these opportunities. They're a bit busy in their day-to-day business operations, so they sometimes feel like they don't have time to respond to all these questions. What are
Mm.
some tips that, a potential client or a business owner who's just getting into PR and is completely overwhelmed, what are some things that they can do to kind of offset this but still take advantage of those great PR opportunities?
Yeah, the biggest thing I would say on that is if the client isn't available, make sure there's another person that can step in and take advantage of the opportunities. I've seen it with clients before, saying, hey, deadline is in 4 hours. Can you do this? They say no, but, my vice president can, and then they run with it. So availability is the biggest thing, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that specific client's availability, just somebody on the team that can take advantage of these opportunities. And the other thing is don't try to narrow your focus so much. If you're in, crypto, but you just want to talk about Bitcoin, you're going to be limited on what opportunities come your way. You have to be willing to talk about um, things outside of the larger financial market. You have to be able to talk about how things affect, how exterior things affect crypto, how crypto could be influencing certain economic movements. You have to be able to talk about a lot of things. And it doesn't have to be anything so in the weeds. And I mentioned this a little earlier. If you're unsure, just Google it. Like, it's a resource. Journalists are not looking for a research paper. They're looking for a few sentences, very top level information that people can easily digest. And I think that's where a lot of clients get really they waste a lot of time is trying to formulate that perfect response. And really, from a thing of 5 paragraphs, they might pull 3 sentences. Like
Yeah,
it is
and I'm
not
glad
that.
you said that because I've had PR stuff too, and I'm very guilty of that. I obviously want to seem very credible on the space that I'm commenting on, whether it's AI or marketing. So it's a constant challenge when I have these opportunities, and that's where Audrey and you guys always tell me, like, make it simple, make it simple. Don't go in the weeds, don't write a book. But it's
Yeah.
tough because, I want people to know that I'm still credible and not just give a stupid answer, in my opinion. But to your point too, David, it's better to get that out there and then just move on to the next opportunity without going in the weeds. And one other thing I want to go off that is some clients that we onboard or just clients that have approached us, they say, well, I want the big publication right away. Talk about
Mm.
the importance of building media credibility and why you should always take these opportunities that come up right away, because a lot of clients don't have any media credibility, but yet they think they can get in these top placements right away. So expand on media credibility and why all these smaller PR opportunities matter over time.
Yeah, so the first thing there is if a reporter is being pitched a client that has not appeared anywhere, and there's no verifiable information aside from their own company website that they, one, know what they're talking about, and two, should be given that platform, they're not even going to read the pitch any further. They're going to go to the next person. So, one thing I've always told clients, and I've said this since I started in PR, um, you know, the opportunity you have right now is the one you didn't have yesterday. Take advantage of it, build that media credibility, because once people start seeing your name out there, once you start attaching yourself to the trending news of the day and being that authority those in those stories, people are going to want to talk to you. Great example is my legal client. Once we started getting him win in Fox News or in USA Today, Washington Post, it began a trend of, hey, is Kevin available without me having to do anything? Like, it is one of those things where you just have to, you know, see the end goal, and the end goal is take advantage of every opportunity that it comes your way, because that in the long run is going to create more, it's going to saturate the media more with your name. And otherwise, you want to be able to do that.
Yeah, and when you're saying these opportunities in my head, I'm thinking local, smaller tier outlets
Yeah,
that people just think, oh, these aren't important. Why would I waste my time when I could do this or I could do that,
right.
right? But the point is it snowballs, and you can't get in these big media outlets without building up that media credibility from smaller to medium tier outlets. So I'm glad
Yeah.
you brought that up. So just kind of ending here, David, again, thank you for your time and your PR expertise. Is there any final note that you want to tell the listeners or viewers about PR or tips and tricks or anything of that nature?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I would say is be respectful of reporters. A lot of the time they are on as harsh a deadline as you are communicating with your clients, probably even harsher. If they can't get to your pitch, don't worry about it. Just be respectful, and be mindful of what they're writing, what their areas of coverage are, and always make yourself disposable to them, because that relationship, um, it's a symbiotic one. One day they might be in a bind, they need your help. One day you might be in a bind, you need their help. So it's always great to begin and end on the right note with reporters.
Yeah, that's great advice. I've noticed you guys building a relationship with these reporters and how important it really is. Well, thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Marketing Quacks podcast. David, thank you so much again for your time, and make sure you guys tune in to the next episode.